Hello and welcome once more to my channel. In a previous episode, I discussed why a person who has diabetes and who seemed to be doing well could suddenly die. In this episode, I'll be discussing the chronic complications of diabetes, especially diabetes that has not been well controlled. Before I proceed, I'd like to let you know what a controlled diabetes is. To determine how well diabetes is, we measure your hemoglobin A1C, otherwise known as A1C for short. Well-controlled diabetics usually have A1C less than 7. For poorly controlled diabetes, hemoglobin A1C is usually 7 and above. And the longer you have your A1C above 7, the more likely you will suffer complications. And also, the higher your number is, the more likely you'll have complications and the more severe your complications are. Now then, here are the 7 most common or serious complications related to poorly controlled diabetes. Number 1 is kidney injury. For most people with type 2 diabetes, by the time you are diagnosed with diabetes, your kidney is already showing signs of injury due to high blood glucose. Initially, those things could be reversed. Those initial kidney injury could be reversed with treatment. However, as time goes on, and if your diabetes remains still uncontrolled, those injuries become chronic kidney disease and eventually lead to outright kidney failure, in which case you may require dialysis or transplant, without which person can die very shortly. The next organ damage, number 2, is eye. Diabetes is one of the leading causes of blindness worldwide, and there's 2 types of eye damage caused by diabetes. One is called retinopathy, which is damage to the cells at the back of your eye that receive and process light information. All visions that we perceive are interpreted in forms of light, and so when those cells are damaged, our interpretation of vision is begin to be cloudy and impaired. The second type of eye injury is called cataract. This is the damage to the lens of the eye. All light into your eye has to pass through the lens of the eye. As the diabetes becomes uncontrolled, the lens becomes stiff, does not relax or contract the way it should. It also becomes cloudy, much like you are driving through with your vehicle with the windshield that is clouded, or you're wearing eyeglass that is foggy, dirty, and cloudy. So that's cataract. Together, retinopathy and cataract can lead to blindness. The next, or number 3 organ damage, is coronary artery disease or heart disease. Narrowing of the blood vessels that supply blood to your heart lead to what we call angina. You begin to have chest pain when you exert yourself, when you do your usual activity, shortness of breath, and eventually you may have outright heart attack or even sudden death. Also, with persistent coronary artery disease, you develop congestive heart failure. The 4th organ damage that is encountered by people with diabetes is brain injury, and there are 2 types of brain injury. One is stroke. When the big blood vessels in the brain are narrowed, and especially when they are blocked suddenly, you have a stroke. However, less well known is the fact that chronically uncontrolled diabetes causes blockage of the small vessels in your brain, causing what we call microvascular ischemia. And the longer you have those microvascular ischemia, you begin to develop memory loss, otherwise known as vascular dementia, like people with Alzheimer's. That's incurable. Number 5 is leg complications. Diabetes is the number 1 cause of amputation worldwide, and this is the result of 2 things. One is diabetic neuropathy. That is damage to the nerves that receive and transmit impulses to and from your leg. When you lose those sensations, you can step on sharp objects without knowing. You can have cut on your leg. You can step on the burning object, develop ulcer without knowing it. Additionally, when you have ulcer or injuries to your legs, they do not heal very well. They get infected and your immune system is impaired. Therefore, you develop gangrene or ischemia of your leg, leading to amputation. I have seen people who develop amputation of both of their legs, or progressively from below knee amputation going to above knee amputation, and become incapacitated. The next complication is gastrointestinal tract. Diabetes impairs the nerves that control the contraction of your intestinal tract in such a way that when you eat food, your intestinal tract is no longer able to contract and move food along the way. You start to have nausea, vomiting, and you start to hate food, abdominal pain, and the person begin to waste away. It's called diabetic gastroparesis, more common with people with type 1 diabetes. The next one, which is number 7, is more pertinent to men, and this is called erectile dysfunction. Damage to the nerves that control erection, as well as the blood vessel to the penis, can cause failure of erection, erectile dysfunction. And so, I urge every person who have diabetes to please be mindful of your hemoglobin A1C, much like you know your PIN number, you know your account number, your phone number, your address. A hemoglobin A1C of less than 7 is desirable. Higher than 7 means more complication. If your hemoglobin A1C is less than 7, please have your doctor recheck it at least once every year. But if it's above 7, try to have it checked at least twice a year. Please pass this message along to save life and live longer and enjoy life. Diabetes does not have to be a death sentence. Please subscribe to my channel, share this message to save life. Thank you, and watch